Academy representative, and our new participant, representative of Business School of University of Portsmouth, Rosa Sagitova. The theme of our meeting today is market concept, market mechanism of sustainable development. Before we start our scientific seminar, I really hope it will be enjoyable for you, very interesting. I hope for it, and let me introduce our expert today. Our remote expert, Sagitova Rosa, Doctor of Philosophy, Accounting and Financial Management, Portsmouth School of Business, University of Portsmouth. Zvonova Елена Анатольевна, Head of Global Economy and Global Finance Department of Finn University, Doctor of Economics, Professor. We are waiting for coming Yefimova Olga Vladimirovna, Professor, Doctor of Economics, Department of Accounting, Analysis and Audit of Finn University. Sokolova Елизавета Сергеевна, Professor, Doctor of Economic Science, Global Economy and Global Finance Department of Finn University. Оглоблина Елизавета Валентиновна, Deputy Dean.
She's here.
Okay. Deputy Dean for Scientific Research of International Economic Relations, Faculty of Finn University, Candidate of Economic Sciences, Associate Professor. And Zbigniew Mezhva, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Editor of Journal Review of Business and Economic Studies. Several organization remarks. We are strictly limited in time, and we have only 1 hour and half an hour disposal, so I have to strictly follow timing, and dear colleague, I in advance apologize for my possible interrupting your presentation. What else? I remind you that we took 10 minutes for each presentation. Okay, it's better. Yeah? I remind you that we take 10 minutes for each presentation and 10 minutes for subsequent discussion. I want to emphasize our information support. Can you hear me? Is it clear? Dear remote participant? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
For confirmation. I want to emphasize our information report support. According to the decision of our expert, the best report will be published in our scientific journal, Review of Business and Economic Studies. And the last, not the last, at the request of our Vietnamese participants, we changed the order of our reports. The first presenter is our Associate Professor Vladimir Skalkin. The second is our dear partner, Professor Dang Thi Nguyen Anh, and our scientific almost sprint is closed by a student of International Financial Faculty, Nastya Yakimova. One more advert. Maybe we don't have technical problems today, but nevertheless, in case of any problems, all participants who present in our audience, please come to Presidium table and ask your question with our headset here. So now it's time to start our presentation, and I give the floor to our respectable associate professor, Vladimir Skalkin. Please. Take this seat, please. Откройте его презентацию. Угу.
Нет, сюда садитесь, сюда перед компьютером.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all participants. I want to introduce a theory that is actually subject to development of several groups internationally who have actually completely different approaches, but what I like to introduce is the very concept that could be used for further development of macroeconomics. The name is Theory of Macroeconomic Design, and that represents approach to economic science based not only for studying or forecasting or for building models that help determine key parameters of monetary policy, but rather an attempt to try to build up a system that could be self-balanced and could exist without intervention of central banks. So the rationale for that is global financial payment systems currently are transferring to principally new technologies for clearing, settlement, payment procedures, for establishing banking parameters, banking interest, for loans, for deposits, and for other things related to function of macroeconomy. And currently there are many innovations, blockchain, which is also called hash graph, fintech, cryptocurrencies, digital economy. All these are synonyms of a new era, new technology that is coming. That's why it leads to revision, to possible revision, the whole essence of monetary transactions that are done globally, that are done within all economies. And the term that is used, it represents innovation and monetary and fiscal policy structure and organization. So all economic system treated from position of organizational design. And new concepts of design basically call for use of chaotic structures. So that is a self-regulating structure that balances itself. And of course, there was a history of such studying. So first, they used conventional models for central bank management and for management of making economic decisions, like family of dynamic stochastic general equilibrium models, including such known products as FRBUS, EDO, estimate dynamic optimization, sigma, or new area-wide model, which is used in the European Union, but also currently appeared new family of models of macroeconomic design that includes Kaori-Yamaguchi model, which is quite specific. It's called Muratopia or Green Village. That is in Japan. Also from South Africa, works by Edward Ingram and a whole host of professors and practitioners, users, founders of mutual funds, who try to develop these new concepts. We'll first talk about one of such attempts, which is named Edward Ingram theory, and the idea. That is an example, that is only example that I'm going to introduce. Then based on critique of this example, we could then further process to additional developments. So the idea is that prices of goods determined by market supply and demand. And the problem is that the most important price in the economy, this is price of money. But how we could talk about free market economy if the price of money, if the most important good price of money, most important commodity, is determined by the central bank, that influence whole economy, and prices are not. That means that not all prices are not fair because of that. So this approach points out the wrong estimates of capital and depreciation of capital, which includes not only physical capital depreciation, but also amortization of financial capital. Then the issue raises about new measures of estimation. And that particularly there was developed general equation of credit, but this is a questionable thing, and it's more critique about that than support that used Warhorn equations for calculation of ratios. So the idea is that when we make any investment, whether it's investment in securities or whether it's deposit, we deal with two rates. This is inflation, this is real inflation, this is real interest rate and nominal interest rate, which are basically connected by inflation. So if we subtract inflation from nominal interest rate, we get real interest rate. But there would be very serious loss when we make such investment. The loss is that money discounted according to nominal interest rate, and real interest rate is what is left over after inflation. So time value of money does not take into account important component, which is basically opportunity cost of capital. I will make this very small example that, for example, if loan is 500, but inflation is given p%, which is 6, and nominal rate of interest is 12%, nominal rate of interest is 12%, then we think that we have gain in our investment. But if we take into account opportunity cost of capital, which was created by increase in national average earnings, economy has grown for this time. Economy has grown, and national average earnings has a certain percentage, which is average earnings grow. For example, here is 10%. National average earnings given approximately 100 in this example, and you see the chain of computations that finally lead to LL. This is a loan. This is loan, and we see that if we count in national average earnings, that we do not have increase in our investment. We do not have increase in our investment. We have loss, as you see in this computation. And this loss was occurred only because we have not taken into account increase in national average earnings. Well, what is national average earnings? If we take GDP, subtract consumption allowance of capital consumption allowance, then we subtract indirect taxes, we arrive at national income, which is if you divide it by number of people who earn salary, who participate in production, not total population. So that would be national average earning indicator.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
2 minutes left.
Okay, then I will. There will be some. I will skip this thing. That would be good for maybe additional discussion. But I want to pay attention that all approach has an attempt to change the system of establishing interest rates. And also it deals with a whole host of different publications, for example, Handbook of Alternative Monetary Economics, then also that's book on money finance, which talk about heterodox, not orthodox macroeconomics, heterodox economics, and then finally it ends up with the concept endogenous money, which brings us back to the way how blockchain technologies or so-called cryptocurrencies may create additional ways of clearing, settlement, and conducting exchange transactions without using central bank money. They could be classified as private money, they could be classified as endogenous money, and the question is how all these concepts and how all this approach could be used to meet a brave new world of new digital economy. Then thank you, and I'm ready to answer questions. But you see, that story is a little bigger than I could have expected from the beginning.
Thank you very much for interesting presentation. Dear Professor Skalkin, and I dare ask first question to you. According to our theme, this new world of settlements, and how much cryptocurrencies involve in the world of green economy? How much payment do you know goes through this mechanism of blockchain?
Actually, if you talk about specifically green economy, first there is a disagreement on use of term green economy. For example, I mentioned studies of so-called Muratopia, which is called green village. That is invention of Professor Yamaguchi from Berkeley University, and he understands this concept completely different. That understood as green economy associated with ecology, with all other things. That's first. Then, as for usage of blockchain payments in green economy, unfortunately, I haven't met such information yet.
Just approximation.
But the idea is that the question is why blockchain technology should be used for payments. That is, there are several issues associated with that. Here is example. Like there are many transactions that done internationally, which cannot be done through traditional banking system. For example, export-import transactions. and they very often may not be totally legal. And that's why participants of these transactions may buy products of blockchain like Bitcoin or others, buy in Russia, and then clear in different offshore jurisdictions. And in this way, they could channel money, which would not be possible to do it through conventional system. I don't think that ecological issues require such type of payment. They're perfectly legal. Actually, these main of them is like ecology based on different programs like Paris Agreement and others. They don't require such means of payment because Bitcoin is very expensive to use it for conventional payments. For example, I don't need to use Bitcoin because I never do any transactions that require transfer of payment that could not be cleared through Russian banks. I don't need that.
I got your position, but nevertheless, according to your presentation, you mentioned national average earning, and can you estimate how much from this national average earning are devoted to green payment, green economy?
Actually, that is a question how much of GDP is devoted. Let's start with that.
No, maybe you're right.
That is a form of GDP, actually.
Yes,
it's a form of GDP, but simply GDP minus consumption of capital and minus indirect taxes. That we arrive at this indicator. Then divide by number of working population. That actually, to ask about green economy, it's the same as to ask how much of GDP is consumed by green economy. That would be probably similar estimates.
Yes, yes. So, any other questions to?
Yes, we have one more question, Mrs. Aglovlin.
Dear Professor Skalkin, thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing with us with the results of your research. I have one question. I'd like to focus your attention on the highly disputable topic nowadays. I mean the Ripple, this cryptocurrency platform. And I'd like to ask you about your personal view on the future of this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. The issue is about what is generally cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, it's not money. First, number one, they called money, but many people call it as money. But in fact, this is not money. Money is something that circulates. Money is something that is being emitted, being issued by the one who, for whom this is a note, a vexel. That's interest-free vexel. That we use money. Cryptocurrencies, this is a platform, as you correctly stated. It's an electronic platform that allows settlement, that allows exchange without use of money, of conventional money or fiat money, as you could call it. And that makes a completely different view. Cryptocurrency does not have issuance, does not have circulation. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. This block or hash, or actually it's graph. It's a graph that is deciphered in a form of hash. The idea of hash, it's an old idea. It existed. I worked with the hash technology in 90s when I was developing a distributed database for flexible manufacturing systems. There was no even internet used at that time. But idea is that the storage of information in hash technology is different than index storage information database. Instead of using a cell, and then computer software should make many steps to find this particular cell with its address. it uses a number which is divided by another number, and the number that is a product of division has many points, many numbers, and many digits after a decimal point. And according to this number, the information, the cell is stored. It's a simply way of finding information. That's pure database technology. But then what happens? This cell is actually being added with the electronic signature or personal identifier of a user. It's like electronic signature. And then what happens? Then happens that this signature could be used for transferring whatever asset you want to transfer. You could use you may transfer conventional money, you may transfer like barrels of oil, you may transfer cars, houses, anything, any information, any asset could be put as under this shell, which is signature. That means that according to this right of usage of this database, I have transferred certain asset to another person, and that is my signature. That is an explanation what actually happens in the blockchain technology. And I don't need to use conventional cash for that. So as for specifically Ripple, well, I may be mistaken, but probably this was used by Goldman Sachs, and it put $1 underlying asset to guarantee this cryptocurrency. And a perspective of specific this or that is a demand and supply for different platforms. In fact, it's a club, and you need to buy a ticket to use this club for making exchange transactions without using conventional currency. I would put it this way.
Dear colleague, because of time restriction, I am forced to finish this interesting discussion. And thank you once more, dear Professor Skalkin, for your interesting report. Now it's turn to our Vietnamese friend, and I give floor to our dear Professor Deng Thi Nguyen Anh.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, on behalf of my college, I must say thank you for celebrate the chance for transfer research idea. Today, I glad to be here to present the topic necessity of agricultural enterprises for sustainable development in Vietnam. The presentation includes 4 parts. The first one is agricultural exports in Vietnam. The second is agricultural production situation and its environment effect. The third one is necessity of agricultural enterprises in Vietnam for sustainable development. And the last one is some recommendations. Now I would like to introduce the first part. Agricultural exports in Vietnam.
We have some technical mistake, and I ask you to list your presentation slides, not simultaneously, but ask us to turn to next slide.
Can you repeat?
Clear?
Can you repeat?
Turn slide in Skype, please.
The slide.
We already show your presentation, and we need your conduction of it.
But could you receive the slide? Could you see the slide?
Just a moment, we'll try. Try to show your slide to us. Or we may conduct your slide. Just tell us where to change them.
Прислали новые на почту.
Ну, откройте. Уж открывайте нашу, не будем ждать. У нас мало времени.
Загрузка.
Wait a minute, dear expert. We're waiting for opening the presentation of our Vietnamese friends. Идет загрузка. Они хотят сами. Okay, continue, please. We can see your presentation now.
Có quay đâu, ra để lúc nãy là can I come to the move out from the camera and come to the computer to adjust my slide?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, start. Now I would like to start with the first part. Agricultural export in Vietnam. Vietnam has achieved considerable success in agricultural production and exports. The export growth rate is 10% per year. 15 of employee and 17 of population. 50 of employee and 70 of population is in agricultural sector. Therefore, agricultural production has strong influences in Vietnam economy, environment, and society. By the year of 2015, Vietnam was ranked 14th among 22 world major agricultural exporters. On the chart, the blue columns represent for the export to agricultural export value in Vietnam. You can see the number was about $2 billion in 1997, turned double in 2005, and eightfold by 2016, reached $15 billion. However, there have been suspended recently, including a decline in agricultural exports growth rate and a decline in agricultural export share in Vietnam's total export. Some main reasons caused the suspension in agricultural exports of Vietnam, including the lack of capital for development, the climate, and the world tendency to consume high-quality agricultural products. Now, I would like to introduce the agricultural production situation and its environmental effect, and reflect via some number. 13 million is the number of farmer households in Vietnam. 4,500 is the number of agricultural enterprises in Vietnam, and it just counts 1% of total enterprises. 2.9% is FDI projects are in agribusiness. 55% to 60% is the capital requirements are met. So the situation is household production model is majority in agricultural production in Vietnam. About the environmental effects of agricultural production, Vietnam's GHG emission count 0.5% of the world total. The average growth is 12%, while GDP grows just 6% to 7%. The carbon intensity of Vietnam's economy at almost triple the world's average. And you can see the agriculture accounts for 23% of total energy emission in Vietnam's profile. The household's production method with poor technology causes difficulty in environment management. 60% to 65% of nitrogenous fertilizer is not absorbed by plants. 90% of unprocessed solid waste is disposed to the village roads and canals, causing pollution. Unplanned crop conversion, land conversion, mangrove deforestation for shrimp farming, overfishing. This sets requirement for reform and innovation in agricultural production, paying more attention to climate change and protect the environment in agricultural production. Now I would like to introduce the necessity of agricultural enterprises in Vietnam for sustainable development. The agricultural enterprises, developing agricultural enterprises can help Vietnam to increase capital for agricultural production, that we have accessibility to apply science and technology, increase quantities and qualities of agricultural products, promote green agricultural production, and deal with climate stabilized crops. Developing agricultural enterprises also have to increase linkage among households in agricultural production that meet the market requirements, develop more brand names for Vietnam's agricultural products. And developing agricultural enterprises can support the government to manage overall land and natural resource using capacity. In conclusion, promote green production. Agricultural enterprises can promote green production, export, and sustainable development in Vietnam. Now I move to some recommendation to develop agricultural enterprise in Vietnam. The mechanism needs close linkage to 5 sectors. The first one is government, farmers, scientists, and business and financial institutions, of which enterprises promote the central role. For the Vietnamese government, we should focus on fundamental factors for agricultural development. We should complete regulation and policies to support enterprises' access to land for agricultural production. For business enterprises, they should develop completed agricultural production chains, invent environment processing, responsible for environmental protection, social and community, increase linkage with farmer households, increase linkage with scientists to promote technology application. For the financial institution, we should develop financial insurance products for agribusiness. And for farmer household, they need to link with the business, join the production chains, apply new production process, and responsible for environmental production. All about is our recommendation to develop the enterprise sector for agri-business. Thank you for listening. Sorry, we have one more solution for science institution and university. We as a researcher, we should develop applied research linked to the enterprises in agribusiness and farmers to support science and technology in the agricultural production. Thank you for listening.
Presentation, and dear participants, question to our reporter.
About the discussion, I would like to introduce Dr. Huang, who is my colleague in university, to have some discussion around this topic.
Of course, introduce your participant. I apologize for not introduction our Vietnamese participant of our meeting today. Please do it, Professor. Okay, I suppose any technical problem prevent us of introduction our Vietnamese side of discussion, and nevertheless I repeat my question about continuing discussion.
We have one question, please.
Please.
Thank you, Professor Ryan. My name is Nikita. I'm the student at the Financial University, and I have some special question for you. I would like to know about the government's role and its involvement in the agriculture sector of Vietnam and how it involves in the business of Vietnam, and about the taxation. Is it high or low, and does it helps to regulate this sector of business, or just try to protect them? Thank you.
Dear Professor Anh, is our question clear to you, or should we repeat it? Can you hear us?
Nowadays, the Vietnamese government pay much attention in agricultural production and protect and develop the rural and agricultural sector. And annually, the government spends about 45% of the budget for agricultural development, including building road and fundamental infrastructure for the rural sector. However, about the law, we have the incomplete law for protect, especially for the environment and technology for the environment. However, we are trying our best, and in much effort in complete the law soon, including tax, environment tax, and some promote in attracting investment FDI for the technology for the technology of environment protection. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, me too. I cannot hear Moscow.
I still cannot hear you. Did you turn on the microphone? Sorry.
Green technologies in agriculture, especially in rice and coffee growing.
Sorry, can you repeat? Because I think the signal is we are out of signal. So can you repeat?
Sorry? Should I repeat my question?
Yes, we didn't hear you.
Can hear you.
Okay, I catch. How many percent of direct foreign investment, you already mentioned them, goes to agriculture, especially in coffee and rice growing?
So you mean the percent of the total investment in agriculture?
Exactly.
Yeah, let me check a bit.
Just
Recently, the government 45% of the budget for the agreement for invest in agriculture, and the FDI for the agriculture is just 1% of the total FDI for agricultural production. And just 1% of the enterprise investment is invest in agriculture, agribusiness. However, we have around in the total amount of the investment in agriculture, the credit sector, the credit capital is around 50%. 50% is from the credit sector.
And you mentioned carbon emission, and it triple surpass of world emission totally. And do you have any solution, any practical solution at the moment to decrease this huge amount of carbon emissions?
I mean, if we let the current model that just household farmer to produce agricultural products, their accumulation is very low. It's 600 to 800 US dollar per year. So they cannot pay. Can you hear me? They cannot pay much capital for the environmental process. However, if we develop the enterprises in agribusiness, the enterprise can raise capital from the society, can raise capital to invest more for environment processing. So nowadays we have more and more company, more and more group that invest money in the green and eco-organic agricultural production, and with these company, they pay much money. They invest much money in new new agricultural industry method that process the waste, and greenhouse emission. Is they pay attention to the green GHG emission to reduce the carbon intensity, and they have some success. For the first, but it's very it's just few years, and we do not have clear result about the GHG emission.
Thank you very much. And now it is turn to our third one more question. Okay. Yes, we have time. One more question to our Vietnamese friends, please.
Thanks for your presentation. University, I have one question for you. Do you have any forecast of agriculture development for the next years?
Have you got our question?
Agricultural export or production or?
Our student asked you about your forecast about next year concerning agriculture harvest. Is it so?
Yeah.
Export?
Forecast. Do you have any forecast?
According to me, the enterprise, agricultural enterprise is playing more and more important role in agricultural production in Vietnam. And nowadays, I think it will be better and better for us to export more agricultural products. However, you can see the agricultural exports in Vietnam this year and then last year was affected by the climate change with the mangrove deforestation, and the quantity of agricultural product reduced sharply this year. So if we don't have any solution, quite clear solution and immediate solution to cope to deal with the climate change, I think the quantity of the agricultural production cannot improve. So according to me, to increase the production next year or in the future, we should pay more attention to the environment processing. Thank you.
Colleagues, I am forced to interrupt our interesting discussion. And now it's turn to our last presenter, representative on International Financial Faculty of our university, Nastya Yakimova. And her presentation is dealing with carbon emission, is dealing with derivatives, weather derivatives. Please.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yakimova Anastasia. I'm second-year student of Financial University. So today I will present you the work which I did in a team with the students of Western Polytechnic Institute and my colleagues from Financial University. So the topic of my presentation is weather derivatives in Russia, insuring farmers against temperature fluctuations. So, and influential variable within the agriculture sector and becoming increasingly unpredictable and as climate change continues to affect global weather patterns. Russia's ambitions to become agricultural self-sufficient and its ban on imported crops have caused its agricultural sector to grow substantially in So actually there are two ways to protect. First is insurance that protects from low probability and high risk events, but it doesn't cover high probability and low risk events. Also, another way to hedge against the risk is government subsidies that protect from low probability and high risk event, but there is a problem such as acreage requirements and arbitrary payouts. So what is the solution? We propose the weather derivative, which is a type of financial option that can be used to protect farmers from daily fluctuations in temperature and precipitation that insurance do not shield them from. So in order to test our financial instrument, there is necessity of statistical information, which is temperature and crop yield. Because of country's geographic span, the overall climate of Russia varies significantly from area to area. So the Moscow, Krasnodar, and Omsk regions provide a representative range of Russian climatic and agricultural conditions. The Moscow region is the western part of the country. Because of its large population, its local agriculture has a high profile. Krasnodar is the economic center of southern Russia, and about 43% of its main industry is agricultural based. Because of Krasnodar geolocation by the Black Sea, the region has a longer growing season and ideal weather conditions for plant growth. So conversely, the Omsk region, the conditions in Omsk are not so favorable. Situated on the West Siberian plain, the annual average temperature is around 1.4 degrees. So wheat, corn, and potato are grown in all these three areas, but each is subject to the region's unique weather conditions. So temperature index weather derivative revolve around the concept. Temperature index weather derivative revolve around the concept of growing degree day. So the weather derivative pricing equation are centered around the GDD that each crop experienced. In order to calculate this, we need two things. We need daily maximum and minimum temperature data, which we divide by 2, and we subtract the base temperature. So the base temperature is the ideal temperature for growing crop yield. And we need to know specifically when each crop was planted and harvested in each region, which we gathered from a variety of sources about agriculture development. In order to calculate cumulative GDD, we should identify a period for our financial instrument. So this period is connected with the plant harvest data. On this table, you can see different types of crops and its harvest periods. For example, for the entire period of maturation, temperature should be from 325 to 375 degrees. So this is the ideal temperature for growth. In case there is a deviation, the yield decreases. So we agree that the yield losses in both cases of deviation are conventionally $20 per degree deviation. So $20 we took $20 per 1 degree we took from American practice. So most weather derivatives are currently traded on the market using over-the-counter transactions, meaning they are privately negotiated between two parties. So we recommended further research into trading derivatives on an online local exchange trading system called LETS. So contracts can be easily bought and sold all around the world. In other words, LETS is a platform where farmers and investors meet and make a deal. So with global climate change altering weather patterns, Russia farmers need protection from everyday weather events that will negatively affect their crop yields. This type of protection is not currently offered through traditional methods of agricultural insurance or government subsidies, and furthermore, Russian farmers have a lack of faith in these products. Using weather derivatives, these farmers should be able to hedge this risk at an affordable premium price. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nastya, for your very interesting presentation. And dear colleagues, now it's time to discussion. First question is?
Thank you very much.
Afternoon. Thank you for the very interesting and valuable information presentation. And I think that is very interesting topics about the hedging of the risks that happening in the agricultural market. And I have some comment about the Vietnamese agricultural market, as well as the necessity for developing a derivative market. As you know, Vietnam is one of the most populous countries in the world, and we have 90 million people. So that we have a very great need for food in the future. And Vietnam also an export country. Estimated data show that 70% the GDP comes from the export value, and majority of these goods come from agricultural commodity like coffee, rice, rubber, corn, wheat, or tea. So that's why agriculture plays a very important role in the development of the Vietnamese economy. So, however, we have many inherent risks, like the unpredictability of the price, like the uncertainty of the demand, and Vietnam market depends on some large markets like China a lot, and especially the unpredictable of the weather condition. As you know, weather is one of the unpredictable factors. So therefore, we need to develop a derivative market so that the risk can be brought more efficiency. In reality, Vietnam also have some derivative market, but we operate not efficiently. And I think one of the main reasons is that not many Vietnamese farmers as well as enterprise understand the benefit of hedging all the risks. Yes, and for many years, Vietnamese economy stuck in a vicious circles like this. When the price of the goods are high, so farmers will rush to plant that trees, and when the price drops sharply in the market, the farmers will cut down that tree and replace it by other more higher price products. And that's why we cannot have a sustainable agriculture. So that I think if we can hedge all the inherent risks, it's very good for the sustainability of the agriculture as well as the economy. And therefore, I really hope that in the future, Vietnam also develop a market, a derivative market for agricultural products. And in that, the weather derivative, I think, very important, because whether we have good or bad farming season or not depends a lot on the weather condition. And we can control the weather condition. It's very good for the sustainability of the agricultural economy. Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you a lot for your notice, dear dear Vietnamese professor, and it is the main reason why we impose this presentation in our today discussion. And now we are waiting for the question from Professor Agloblina. Please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I've got one question concerning the prospects of launching and widespreading of weather derivatives in the Russian financial market. What do you think about this problem? Thank you.
So, in my point of view, this instrument could be implemented in Russia, but it necessitates time, because it necessitates time to introduce this instrument, because nowadays farmers are afraid of some changes, and it will take a time to bring them the idea of this instrument and to win the trust of the farmers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To summarize the answer, it need to be a revolution in mind.
Yeah.
So, any other question to our presenter, please?
Excuse me, can I have one more question? First of all, I would like to say thank you because for sharing us very interesting topic. And I was very fascinated to know that the temperature and weather could be a commodity that's tradable. And the question is that as Ms. Tu has mentioned, Vietnam is agriculture in Vietnam is very weather sensitive, very high weather sensitive, and the percentage of labor workforce in agriculture in Vietnam is much higher than that in Russia. So could you sharing with us some experience when you promote that tool in the Russian market? Is there any obstacle that you have you faced up, and how to deal with that?
So actually the weather derivative is not implemented in Russia, but there is a platform, internet platform, where it can be implemented. So it's LETS, local exchange trading system. So in the future, if this derivative will be implemented, one of possible platform is LETS and OTC. If I understand right your question.
Okay. Dear Vietnamese colleague, are you satisfied with our answer? Yes.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, any more questions to our presenter? Let us, in such case, to make a conclusion. To sum up all our presentation, dear expert, it's turned to you, and which presentation deserves the publication in our Review of Business and Economic Study Journal? Up to your decision. Which one?
Maybe
do you need time for?
We need 2 minutes just to
Okay,
discuss.
okay. I give you 2 minutes for your decision. Если хотите. Совещаются.
Can I ask a couple questions before?
Rosa, it's my pleasure to give you the floor.
I was looking at agricultural development in Vietnam, and I was wondering, you are focusing a lot on greenhouse gas emissions, and you are saying that there is a big impact of climate change. But my argument would be, it's not necessarily the biggest impact of Vietnam on climate change, because climate change greenhouse gas emissions are emitted across the world, so you cannot control where they're emitted, but the impact would be big on everyone. So yes, you can reduce Vietnamese greenhouse gas emissions, but if, for example, such countries as USA, which has a huge impact, or Russia, which has 10 times more emissions than Vietnam, for example, then there's not much you can do from a climate change perspective. But then at the same time, you're talking about pollution, which you can really see the effect of pollution, because you mentioned fertilizers, you mentioned solid waste, and things like that, which you can really control. Yeah, so I wouldn't focus too much on climate change, I would suggest. Can you hear me?
I couldn't hear you quite well because you don't use microphone.
I don't have microphone. Can you hear me this way?
Can you try?
Your question, dear Vietnamese colleague.
I'll try. Can you hear me better now?
So you can continue. And
our Vietnamese colleague asked to repeat your question, maybe shortly.
It's not the question that much. It's just observation that climate change is affected, or greenhouse gas emissions are emitted by a lot of countries, and Vietnam is not a biggest contributor to climate change. So your emissions are, for example, 10 times lower than Russian emissions. But the impact that has the world is much, much bigger than Vietnamese impact. What I would probably suggest that you focus on environmental pollution that you mentioned, other pollutions, rather than just climate change. You do have an impact, but maybe from the world rather than just from Vietnam itself. That's one thing. And the other thing, I'm not sure how you see the cooperation of big agribusinesses with small farmers, because the argument would be big agribusinesses probably will remove small farmers from the market. And then if you're removing them, that's not very sustainable for market as it is, or for smaller farmers, because they will potentially lose the job, or potentially will lose income. So how do you see the cooperation between big agribusinesses and small farmers?
Sorry, can you repeat just only the question?
Can I write it? Can you see it if I write it?
You asked me about the linkage, the cooperation between enterprises and farmers.
Small farmers, yeah.
Yes, small farmers. Yeah. Actually, in Vietnam nowadays, the big company often have they build infrastructure, the factory, and process material that's supplied by the household farmer. So the household farmer will be the supplier for material supplier, following the requirement of technology, of some standard. The material following the standard that given by the company. So by that, the company can connect the huge number of household farmer to work for them as a supplier, material supplier, to process the product.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Thank you.
So, dear Professor Yefimova, do you have a question?
Thank you.
Dear colleagues, thank you for a very interesting presentation. We are doing now, so what we are doing now, connect, attract household farmer to work for the company.
Okay, we have one more question from our Professor Yefimova.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, maybe my question will be a little bit different, but it's very important for me because I'm professor of accounting department of our university, and I suppose the subject of information collection is extremely important. So I'd like to ask you, do Vietnamese enterprises obliged to prepare information about their efficiency in field of sustainable development? How do you collect this information? How do you analyze it? For example, in Russia, there is a government concept of sustainable development reporting. So we need to develop a mechanism of such reporting, and it's a very significant problem for Russia, I suppose, it for Vietnam too. So could you give some maybe comments on this problem? Thank you.
See, our Vietnamese colleagues are deeply in doubt about it. Maybe firstly we ask our representative of Great Britain to clarify this question.
Can you repeat it, please? Can you repeat the question?
Can you hear us clearly, Rosa?
Yes, but can you repeat the question? I missed the beginning of the question.
Okay.
My question was connected with practice of corporate reporting that disclose information about sustainable development of enterprises. Thank you.
Well, overall, if you look at the world practice, Russia is behind in terms of social and environmental reporting. If you look at the biggest companies, then about 95% of largest companies in the world are disclosing CSI information publicly, and they often would have separate reports. They would use often Global Reporting Initiative guidelines, which are voluntary, and because of that, they often pick things that are more relevant to them. So they don't necessarily disclose everything as per the guideline, because the guidelines themselves mention that it is up to the companies to choose what is the most important to them, what are the stakeholders they want to focus on. So a lot of companies, for example, Coca-Cola would focus on water or on obesity because of the sugar that the drinks containing, or water because they have to use water to produce drinks. So they will be picking up what is the most important to them. But as my research is more focused on greenhouse gas emissions, I was more focusing on these issues. And again, you can see a big difference between companies disclosing this kind of information. And often companies working in environmentally sensitive industries would be disclosing more on those issues. And you can see this trend in Russian companies as well. So we can see that companies operating in oil and gas or mining sectors, they will be disclosing more than other companies. you can see that maybe some financial institutions might disclose information on climate change, but not their impact, not their actually emissions. They will say that they think about it, that they maybe fund projects that are more environmentally sustainable, but they don't measure it, they don't disclose it, because probably there is no much demand for this information from those companies, but there is a demand from oil and gas companies, and they do measure, but the problem is, how do you check whether this is true or not? In Europe, companies have to measure and report those emissions because they participate in emission trading schemes. And so they would install special equipment to measure the emissions. But it's more difficult in Russia because I think in Russia you have to use special calculation rather than measuring actual emissions. So it's difficult to actually compare world companies with Russian companies. But yes, a lot of companies do disclose this information.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, dear expert, we are waiting for your decision.
The experts decided to give the first place for her presentation.
I cannot hear.
Dan Phi Huyen Anh, with her presentation, The Role of Agricultural Enterprises for Sustainable Development in Vietnam. And we give the...
I cannot hear. I cannot hear you.
I cannot hear you too.
Vietnamese professors, my congratulations on your result, because presentation deserves the honor to be published in our journal, Review of Business and Economic Studies. My applaud to you, and all reports share the second places. My congratulations on the result too. And of course, it will be the finish, the decision of our respectable Dr. Mezhva to publish this presentation, somehow connect to us about publication. And now, dear colleague, dear our expert, dear our presenters, dear our discutants, with my great gratitude to you, I am forced to announce the completion of our work. Thank you for your participation. I hope it was fruitful and mutually enriching for all those present till our next meeting now in May, and I hope we should continue this theme to discuss. Thank you once more, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.